Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. Now, listen, the streak will continue. The streak will continue. Scholastic Shally will be here shortly. But to start the show, I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzek, and to my left, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
Gene, it's almost like Bill doesn't like us anymore. He's like, you know what? I know he had some stuff going on, but he's like, you know what? I'll honor you guys with my presence when I get there.
Screw him for golfing, bro.
Unlike Bill, just wants to go golf and not do sports on a Wednesday. Last week it was softball. I mean, what's going to be next week? Pickleball?
Listen, that could be a thing. Pickleball is growing, and that is a sport we will cover on Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. No, we won't. The hell out of here. Covering goddamn pickleball. I'll quit. If I got to cover pickleball, I'm not doing this anymore. Just not doing it. And by the way, I'm tagging the Oklahoma City Thunder and Ruben Frank. Just random people on. I just tag a ton of people on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, go retweet us and tag just a bunch of people. I don't know. Do some stuff. Maybe Cedric Gardner-Johnson will come through. Hey, maybe Darius. Wait, I don't want to give him my you got to be kidding me. Maybe Darius Slay will come on the podcast to talk about his teammates.
Yeah, I mean,
moron. Look. Or he could also tweet about his stats. Did you see that?
I didn't see his tweet, but I did see him talking to Micah.
This moron got on Twitter and was replying to fans with his all-time stats.
Oh, we don't care.
I don't care. Who cares?
Like, if your career is over, maybe. But, I mean, right now, what have you done for me lately?
He's like, you're talking all this smack about me, but if you're going to talk about me, you better make sure you mention I'm a 7-time Pro Bowler. Like 4-time All-Pro. Like,
you won't be this year, buddy.
Who cares? Great. Good job. No, but we got a lot to get into tonight. Major League Baseball playoffs have started, and boy, have they started. Here's a crazy stat. Here's a stat that I don't know if anybody knows. The Orioles were favored in Game 1. They lost. The Astros were favored in Game 1. They lost. The Brewers were favored in Game 1. They lost. The only team that won that was favored yesterday was the San Diego Padres. Game 2, the Detroit Tigers we come on here and the Detroit Tigers have already eliminated a team? This team had less than a 1% chance of making the playoffs August 1st.
It's wild.
And they have eliminated the Houston Astros. They're gone.
Yeah. A team that, going into the season, you'd have thought would have been competing for a World Series this year. I mean, granted, their pitching woes have come to bite them. Verlander being left off the roster, things like that. But still, I mean, like you said, August rolls around. Tigers they're thinking about next year. They're like, hey, the future's bright. We got a silver lining. Scooble's going to win the Cy Young, and now they're in the second round of the playoffs. And I mean, this is October. Anything can happen. Clearly.
You want to talk about a team playing with house money? That team's playing with absolute house money. And listen to their manager talk to the clubhouse after the win today versus Houston was even cooler. He's like, it's great. Let's celebrate it. It's awesome. Next round, we got, hey, listen, short-lived. We got to get ready for next round. They do not, they are just blinders on, man, enjoying the moment. And we watched that game yesterday. We're all texting about it in the chat. The Astros get something going, second and third, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th inning, and that ball, 106 miles an hour off the bat, line drive, caught by the first baseman. It's the difference between winning and losing. It's the difference between living and dying.
I will say the one thing that I am glad about this series is I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. If we had came on air before this series had started, I would have picked the Astros to win the series. If we would have came on air when they were down 1-0, I would have said, I think the Astros are going to win these next 2 games and win this series. So I'm glad I don't have to backtrack any of those statements there, because I promise you that would have been the direction that was going.
It's funny you say that. I had the Detroit Tigers the whole way.
I know. Yeah, you had them sweeping.
I had them sweeping. I had them winning Game 1 and Game 2. I also had the Royals winning Game 1, and I don't know what I have for Game 2. I think I have the Royals winning Game 2 also.
Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding.
You thinking what, 2-1? Like they're gonna score?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe end like that.
Low scoring game I had.
I got you.
Now, if the Orioles do come back, it could be against that Royals bullpen.
Fair.
I don't know. That was the one thing I didn't really.
You're going to be up late,
Yeah.
don't know how it ends, kind of thing.
Exactly. Just don't know how it ends.
maybe about 8:15, we have a better answer for you guys.
Well, my prediction is fluid. Okay, just like my NFL predictions. But I do have this right. I do have. If anybody's listening out there, I do have. Last week, I gave a lock of the month, and it lost.
That's not our fault.
I am going to make a proclamation. I have an underdog. That's my lock of the year. And they will win the game outright by multiple points. And I'm guaranteeing it. And if I don't, listen, if this underdog of the year does not win outright, I will abstain from doing pick'em the rest of the year.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me a Florida State fan reference and say you're going to eat dog shit next week.
I am never doing that. 0 chance. Never. But I will say this. If my underdog of the year does not win this Sunday, there he goes a hint. It's on Sunday. I will abstain from doing pick'em for the rest of the year. I'm done. If it doesn't hit, I must acquit. We got a lot going on. Let's talk about some baseball. Let's get into that. Listen, we did baseball early, so Shally didn't have to tell us how much smarter he is about baseball than us. But that's okay. The Detroit Tigers have already won. They're up. They won the series 2-0. They're going into the next round. The Kansas City Royals are up 2-1. If they win today, the Orioles, who everyone's, darling team is, they'll be eliminated. And we're going to go into the playoffs with Detroit at Cleveland. That is not something I had on my bingo card going into the season.
Right.
It's looking like Mets at Phillies. That's another division rivalry. And then you could run into Royals at Yankees, as well as Padres at Dodgers, another division rivalry. Could next week be rivalry week?
That'd be wild. 3 out of the 4 playoff matchups being matchups against your division rival would be wild. I think it's even more wild that coming into this season, it almost felt like the only way I was going to have a team from the AL Central in the playoffs is because I had to. And the one team that we picked unanimously was the Twins. So the fact that, the Guardians, obviously, they got the first round bye. The Tigers already advanced, and right now
the Twins, by the way. I picked the Royals.
I thought you picked the Twins.
Pick the Royals.
I thought we all had the Twins, but regardless, only one. I know for a fact we all only had one AL Central team going to the playoffs. And the fact that these are the 3 teams that are ultimately there, and not even just there, but looks like going to the second round, kind of wild. And then on the flip side of that as well, you talk about teams being in the second round of the playoffs. We thought the Mets were dead in the water. We were talking about them at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline, like, hey, is Francisco Lindor potentially on the move? Is he washed? And then he just went out and had a phenomenal back half of the year, potentially, top 5 MVP kind of season this year for him.
He's number two.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy how much has changed from the start of the year, even to the trade deadline. And then in the Tigers case, since August 1st. So these playoffs are definitely going to be a very interesting run here.
I can't wait. And the one thing I think that stands out the most to me when you're looking at this playoff series is that you have the Mets, who everyone said they were giving up, that this is not like, everyone said that this was a rebuild year for them. And that's okay. Yep. Like, we all thought it was a rebuild year.
Even their owner said, hey, we're not even serious until 2025.
Now here they are.
Padres. Who you pick in these like the series moving forward?
Oh, I have the Padres. I'm going to tell you that right now. I think they're going to beat the Braves tonight. I think Musgrove's going to have some sticky stuff on his ear. And I think they beat the Braves tonight. I'll tell you right now, I thought it was very interesting that the Braves scratched Chris Sale last minute before their second game. and then he didn't make the postseason roster with back spasms. You're talking about the NL Cy Young, who's not pitching for you. They've already lost their best pitcher in Spencer Strider. They already lost Ronald Acuna. It is just too much for the Atlanta Braves. Choptober will get chopped off early as per usual. See ya, Atlanta. I'm happy about that, but I'll tell you right now, the Padres are a team to be reckoned with. So let's just be fun for a minute. I feel like we have a good indicator of where all the playoff series are going. Let's try to play fun and predict what's going to happen this weekend. You got Mets at Phillies, hopefully. I think the Mets win this series. Is that fair?
I think so as well. I mean, the way that they're playing right now, their bats are hot, and as good as the Brewers have inconsistent that the Brewers have been, I think the Mets they've gotten hot at the right time. I think the Mets do advance in that series.
And then we'll project the San Diego Padres to advance, and that's okay. Like, are we good there? Can we project that?
I do, but I think that ultimately goes to 3, though. I think Fried gets a win today, and it goes to game 3. But I like the Padres still to move on.
Okay, so and then in the AL, I mean, the Royals could wrap it up in 25 minutes,
right?
All right, so let's just project as if those are the matchups. And we'll start in the American League. You got the Detroit Tigers versus the Cleveland Guardians. How do you see this series going, Cottrell?
I think we lose the Scooble starts. Ultimately, I like the Guardians to win the series, but if he pitches twice in that series, which, I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't. No, he had a weird, slight tweak towards the end of his outing in the first game against the Astros. So if that's lingering, then I think potentially you could steal that kind of game. But I think we would lose both of the Scooble starts there. But I like Cleveland to still win the series.
So that's interesting because the series is 5 games. So
right.
if they lose both series, you're winning it in 5.
Right.
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one to go through. I think the
last
Guardians
game being Cleveland, though.
I think you'll win the series. I got the Guardians in 5 also. I think that I think Scooble will end up pitching. See, the way it works out, I think he pitched Tuesday, right?
Yeah. So I think he'd go 1 and 4.
Well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. He would pitch Sunday on normal rest. He would go 2 and 5.
Yeah, but I would, in my mind, that's on normal rest though. With this being the playoffs, I think.
Well, you're going to get him for 2 games. You take him for 2 and 5, right? No.
But I'm saying though, if 4 is an elimination game, in your mind, if you can go get game 1, that gives you a little bit of breathing room. And then, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to have them game 5. And if that's what you want to do, you can hold them out until game 5. You pitch them game 1, but I think it gives you the flexibility to go, hey, we can pitch them game 4. Maybe this is a closeout game for us.
So you're
we don't even forward
short rest in game 1 and then again in game 4. I don't know. I disagree with that. If I'm the Tigers, you got to figure out a way to win a game without Scooble. I pitch him game 2 and then I have him for game 5.
But then in that situation, though, essentially you'd be banking on him to go to game. You'd be banking on to go 5. I'm saying you could pitch him early game 1 and then pitch him game 5 if that's what you want to do. You don't necessarily have to do it game 4. But I feel like they would have to get him sent out there for game 1 to just set the tone in Cleveland.
Find out, but it's undecided, so we'll find out what the Tigers do. We both have the Guardians in 5. Yep. I think that the Tigers find a way to win a non-Scooble start, and I think that the Guardians win game 5 with Tyreek Scooble pitching. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Alex, our resident baseball guys in the chat, do you think Scooble goes game 1 or 2? So game 1 is a must. I don't think it's a must if Scooble doesn't pitch. I think game 2 would be a must, and that's at Cleveland anyway. So I don't know. I'd rather winning game 2 is actually not just a must. It's a really good thing. I don't think it's a must win. You protect home field, but I don't know. I think Alex says game 1. If they throw him game 1, then he's got to win. They got to win.
I was going to say, if they throw him game 1 and he either gets shelled or gets out early, then that's going to be tough uphill sledding.
Game series then.
Yep.
All right. For the other American League series, it's looking like it's going to be the Royals. Royals are going to take on the Yankees in the American League American League divisional round. The Yankees, I don't know. I don't think they're that great. What is your take on the Royals at Yankees?
See, that one gets interesting to me because of the amount of rest the Yankees have been not like had off, I should say. Obviously, it's the same as Cleveland, but I think with the Yankees, they're going to be so dependent on the bats in that lineup. Rizzo not being in that lineup, I think, is going to be I'm not going to say it's the end all be all there, but I do think it will be a factor in how they look. And I think Yankees are going to be dominant in that series, but I can see that being a split early. I like the Yankees in 4 though. I think the Yankees have too much firepower. The Royals probably win the Lugo start, and I think that would be it for them though.
I like the Yankees in this series. I like them early. I think they win the game. I think they win the series in 4. I don't think it goes 5 back to New York. I think they win games 1 and 2. I think they lose game 3, and I think they win game 4. I have them winning 3-1 in the advance. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I just think the Yankees bats are too much.
Yeah, it's funny how we see this the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like we don't even need Bill. We got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we're doing. National League, it's a little bit interesting. I actually have an upset in the Padres-Dodgers series. I have the Padres winning the series. I think they're one of the hotter teams in baseball. I got the Padres winning that series in 5 in Los Angeles. I think they win game 5 in LA. I think once again, the lights get too bright for LA, and I think the Padres win the series. I think they're playoff tested. They're battle tested. I think you might get a Phillies going down to yellow and brown. That's what's in. Do you remember that video?
I do not.
Oh my God, bro. You have to watch that video. It's a video of San Diego commentators when the Phillies played San Diego in the NLCS a couple years ago. And they made this weird song. It was the worst song ever. And they sang it and danced it. And then the Phillies ended up beating them in 6 games. But I like the Padres to win that series. I think they end up knocking off the Dodgers. That's where I'm at. That's what's in.
Yeah, I'm also rolling with the Padres in that series. I'm gonna go a little. I don't want to say more bold, but I like the Padres in 4. I
Cool.
think they jump on the Dodgers early. I think if any team couldn't afford to not have time on the field, it's that Dodgers team. Because we see how they always come out flat in the playoffs, even when they don't have that first round bye there. So I like the Padres. The bats have been hot, and I think when you can roll out their rotation pitching wise, bullpen's been lights out as well. I think it's just the perfect combination for them. I like the Padres in 4, and we see the Dodgers bow out of the playoffs early yet again.
I'm with you. And then going into the next series, you have the Philadelphia Phillies at home, starting off the series at home versus hopefully the New York Metropolitans. I hope it's the Brewers. Give me the Brewers. I want the Brewers to win games 2 and 3, but looking like the New York Mets, I think the Phillies are too much. I know the Mets are hot. I know the Mets are, the team that gets hot in September and rolls into the playoffs. I think the Phillies are just too much. And I think when it's all said and done, you have 5 games and you're going to get Wheeler and Nola 3 of those 5 games. I think the Philadelphia Phillies win the series. I think they win it in 4. I think they win it in New York, and they get to save Zach Wheeler for game 1 of the NLCS. I think they end up pitching all 4 of their starters. I think they go Wheeler. I think they go Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, Ranger, and I think Ranger ends up winning in game 4.
Whoa.
So let me explain why. Sanchez has pitched much better at home. His home road splits are huge. And what the Phillies are planning on doing is, if you're not going to get Nola twice, you might as well get Nola on the road, because his home road splits are Sanchez's home road splits are insane. So I think you end up pitching Sanchez at game 2. I think Wheeler wins game 1, Sanchez wins game 2, Nola loses game 3, and Ranger wins game 4. Yeah.
So my thinking is, I like the Phillies in that series, and I actually like them in 3.
Okay.
You can talk about. I see Godfrey in the chat talking about Ranger will lose. He's not good right now. Well, this is the playoffs. This is where Ranger shines. I don't know what it is about him. Even before, when he couldn't keep it together during the regular season, just inconsistent during the regular season. this is the time where he shines. I think they go Wheeler in game 1. I think they go Nolan in game 2. That gives you the 2-0 lead right there. And then on the road in New York, I think you throw Ranger out there and Ranger gets it done. I think you go with the experience and you trust that experience there. And, the way that the bullpen is pitched this season as well, I like this Phillies team in 3. I think if there is a rotation that can slow down this Mets hot lineup, I think this is going to be that team. So I like the Phillies and I like them in 3.
And this to me is one of the best Phillies bullpen heading into the postseason. I honestly had a lot of doubts, and they've had a couple guys step up. And then the trade acquisition that they made at the deadline has really helped them. They've had like 6-7 guys. Estevez in the trade. You have Hoffman. Alvarado's been there. Matt Strahm. And, the guy that Jeff Hoffman has been so good for them down the stretch. You still have Kerkering. Spencer Turnbull's back. He's on the postseason roster. I love where the Phillies bullpen is. I feel like you can get so many different innings. I'm just hoping against hope here. Topper doesn't overthink himself too much. I think you allow your pitchers to pitch their innings, right? I want them to be able to allow, if Turnbull gets not Turnbull, if Hoffman gets the first 2 guys out in the 8th and there's a lefty and we're like, oh, wow, that's smart. I'll throw in Alvarado. And then he walks 2 guys, and then you're in a situation where like, I don't know what the hell to do here.
Yeah.
Don't get too cute. 2 outs, nobody on. Let Hoffman throw the pitches. He does that shit way too much where he's like, I'll play matchups. I'm going to bring in Matt Strahm. So if one guy doesn't have their stuff that night, you're stuck because you have to pitch him for 3 batters. It's, you can't go pitcher.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean,
good.
I was going to say, I mean, I definitely get that. But I also think that you're going to be in a position where I don't think it's going to necessarily come down to that. I mean, I think you got 4 guys that can get you to the third, that third time through the lineup. So obviously, the bullpen is going to play a big part, but when you got 4 guys that can go 6-7 innings, I mean, you really don't have too much of an option to really get too cute there. I mean, I think Phillies rotation
outside of Wheeler, no one else will get to 7 innings. I promise you that. Outside of Wheeler, they will not pitch anyone else into the 7th inning. He is so confident with the back end of his bullpen. Even if Nola's dealing, he will pitch 6 and they will go to the bullpen. Trust me, Cottrell, I've watched this manager coach for year after year after year. And the only reason he'll let Wheeler go into the 7th is because he almost got massacred for pulling Wheeler out in the World Series when Alvarado gave up the home run. It will not, I promise you, no one else will go past 6. It will not happen. If any Phillies pitcher outside of Wheeler pitches in the 7th inning, any starter pitches in the 7th inning, I'll send you a cheesesteak out there. It's not happening.
Ranger in 4 is funny.
But that's where I'm at. That's Ranger actually pitched a simulated game yesterday, which I love that they did the simulated game. Ranger was the pitcher for it. So they're seeing where his arm's at. They're seeing where he's at. I think that means that he won't pitch game 2 or he might pitch game 3, which is where you have him. That makes sense. Yeah. That's his day.
And then I know Bill's probably going to be on soon here too, but since we're already here and we actually agree on how the next series will go team-wise, who you got going to the World Series then?
So I've picked against the Phillies all year just because I'm scared to death of them breaking my heart again. I'm going to tell you something right now. That team last year versus the Diamondbacks broke my heart. And it's very tough for me at 38 years old to get completely invested in a team. Even the team that went to the World Series when Harper hit the home run, I still thought the Astros were the better baseball team, and I was hoping that the Phillies would win the series versus the Astros. Logic tells me it's the Phillies versus the Yankees, which I think would be one of the most fun series to watch because of the Philly-New York rivalry, and I really believe the Philadelphia Phillies can win the World Series. But the problem is this, man. I get emotional, and it's difficult I know you guys are very passionate in Cleveland, But like when the Philadelphia Phillies are eliminated from the playoffs, when the Eagles are eliminated or they lose on Sunday, it's like the clouds just change overnight. Like it ruins not our day, not our night, our week, bro. And it's if I'm being honest with you, it's very tough for me to be objective and pick the Phillies or pick against the Phillies. So my mind has told me all year it'll be a different team. My gut is telling me it's going to be Phillies Yankees, and I think it's a replay of 2009. And I think your World Series champions are the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay. I'm a little different than you. Now
Fair.
this is where we finally we split up here. I do think the Yankees are going to be the team that represents the AL, but in the NL, I'm rolling with the San Diego Padres. I think
Fair.
this is a team that's they've gotten hot at that right time, like I said. And I think if you want to combat a team like the Phillies, one, you need hot bats. And the other thing you need on the other side is really good pitching. And I think the Padres have that. It looks like, at least for the wild card, they mentioned potentially bringing out Yu Darvish out of the bullpen. I don't know if that'll be a continued trend for him or not. And I guess, in a 7-game series, maybe things may differ a little bit there. But having Cease and having Musgrove and then having you there as well, I mean, I think that puts that San Diego team in a really good spot. And the way they've been hitting, I mean, I think that's the one team who I wouldn't want to play on the entire NL side of things right now, just because of how hot they are. And so,
the one pitcher you didn't mention was Michael King, and he's pitched below 3 baseball. Dylan Cease is unbelievable. Yeah, you're right. They have a lot of pitching. I agree with that. But I think that Cease is the type of pitcher that the Phillies hit, and I think that'll be your big win for the Phillies. And I think Michael King, I don't think he's ready for the bank, man. I really don't. And a lot of these guys are pitching great and are great ball players.
yeah.
Until they get into that environment, until they're in Red October, I don't think they know what it's about. And I seen a list the other day. It was so funny. An Atlanta Braves journalist posted a list of the 5 biggest home field advantages for the MLB postseason. And, they go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, oh, the Phillies have to be one. And what do you think? The Phillies aren't there. Not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And at 1, they have Truist Park of the Atlanta Braves. And I literally almost threw my phone. I'm like, so wait, the Phillies are on a top 5 home field advantage in this postseason? Are you out of your friggin' mind? I don't think there's a better home field advantage in all of baseball. Do you disagree? Is that me being a Phillies fan, or is that like the real truth?
No, I mean, I will say, as far as like rowdiness and just teams showing, like fans showing up.
You use was rowdy, but go ahead.
Because I mean, that's what it's not a negative thing. I mean, I think it gets loud in there, but you don't. I guess you can express passion, but I mean, like the actual sound, in there is nuts. You have a ton of fans in there. You guys pack the stadium, but you also are nuts while you're in there. Honestly, with me being a college football fan, it reminds me of like a lot of drunk college kids on Saturday morning that wake up and they go in and they're just losing their mind. Like, that's how you guys are about everything. I mean, it's awesome environment for sure. And the way it's looked the past couple years in the postseason and when things are good, I mean, absolutely. I would say it's of the teams in the playoffs, I definitely would say it's the number one environment there.
They crapped the bet at home versus the D-backs last year. We're correct. Godfrey, I don't need you to be bringing up shit like that. Well, why?
We didn't say that meant they were going to always win there. But, I mean, if you want to – I think if there was any pitcher in the playoffs right now, if you said, hey, if you could avoid pitching at this stadium, like on the road, and, you could still accomplish your goals, what stadium would you not want to pitch at? I think every pitcher would say the Bank.
I 100% agree. It's bedlam at the Bank. All right, so let me ask you, just for fun, because we're on the topic before we move over to football. What was the better call? And I'm sure you heard both of them. The Phillies home announcer, it's bedlam at the Bank, or Harper, the swing of his life? by Joe Buck.
Um,
Tom McCarthy was on the radio. It's Bedlam at the bank. I don't know if you've heard that whole call, but
I
it's
have.
great. And then that wasn't Joe Buck. It was I forget who it was, but it's Harper, the swing of his life.
I want to roll with the Harper home run. Maybe it might be my recency bias. It might be, but
No, they're both the same home run. Bedlam at the
oh,
bank and Harper. It's just one was the Phillies home announcers calling it on the radio.
okay. Maybe I'm not familiar then with this call then.
Yeah,
But
swing is
the
like
Harp
the
the swing,
national broadcast.
right?
Tom McCarthy was calling it on the radio for the Phillies.
Okay, so yeah, no, I haven't. I definitely haven't heard that then.
Okay, that's fair. Loved it. And Mike said Harper the swing of his life. So that's why I have game 1 Saturday. Are you going to the game? I'm guessing he's going. All right, so let's move over to NFL. Let's move over to football. We had a very interesting weekend of NFL football. I kind of want, you know what? I want to wait until Shally gets on because I know there's another baseball topic that I wanted to bring up, but I'll wait. Because
headlines.
Yeah, we'll do that. Let's move on for the NFL. NFL, we had another week of NFL action. Thursday night, I feel like we got a little bit of chip shot miss. Didn't cover the spread. I don't know where we're going there, but it felt weird that Brandon Aubrey missed the game-winning kick when 83% of the money was on the Cowboys, and he never missed a 50-yard field goal before. But whatever. We're not whatever. What are we talking about? Whatever. Rashee Rice, did you see the injury?
I did.
How about Mahomes on one play looking like such a bozo? He throws the interception. Rashee Rice comes back and strips the ball to try to get the ball back. And Mahomes dives at the knees of the players. And, ultimately it hasn't been put out yet if Rashee Rice has torn his ACL or not. They thought he did. Now there's a report saying it might not be a torn ACL, which is great. But, man, that was a really tough injury to watch. What were your thoughts on that? What were your thoughts on who did Chiefs need to replace Rashee Rice with if he did in fact tear his ACL?
So I will say I'm no doctor here, but I don't believe it's a torn ACL. I think if it was that, I think the imaging would have showed that already. They said that there hasn't been like crazy swelling around it, and the like football doctors that I follow and have been kind of following reports on, they said swelling wouldn't mess up with that imaging anyway. So the later that we don't have an answer is like really the more sign of good news. And I mean, that happened on Sunday. Obviously they went through the testing on Monday and all that stuff. And today's Wednesday now, and we still don't have a word. So I think he's going to be ultimately cleared of the torn ACL. Now, with that said, we still don't know if there's other knee damage and, issues in there, whatever the case may be. So I still think he's going to be on the pine for a while. Realistic receiver options, I think if you look at it, I would potentially be giving the Jets a call and say, hey, I know you guys have Mike Williams. You're clearly not using him. Big body receiver, has some speed to him. I know he's been a little bit injury prone, but a guy that's, at least a valued receiver that can get open on his own. I think that would be somewhere where I'd be making a call to. I also would be potentially looking at other teams that aren't playing well at this moment. Tennessee Titans just got their first win. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins could be a guy that, you throw in with Patrick Mahomes, and that offense looks like it hasn't skipped a beat at all. You still have Xavier Worthy to take the top off the defense and make those explosive plays, but then you bring in a guy like Nuke, and he can get wherever he wants to, whenever he wants to, and Patrick's going to find him. So I think those are two names that I think would make a ton of sense for me in the interim, where it's not like you're mortgaging your future too much for him, and then also making a big enough impact this year where that void isn't really missed.
I actually agree 100%. I said that on Coffee and Sports this morning, that I think it will be DeAndre Hopkins. I think that's who they'll end up trading for. I also think that the talk of Devontae Adams going to the Chiefs is silly.
Facts.
It's silly. I don't think there's any chance that the Raiders will trade Devontae Adams within the division. Even if the Chiefs can't re-sign him, it's almost like you're just hand gifting them another Super Bowl. And I don't think Chiefs fans will be able to stand that.
Facts. And to me, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why at that point, why would you trade him to the Raiders? It's a divisional rival, you're going to have to see him. And you throw what some people would say is the best receiver in the game and the best quarterback in the game together. That's just going to be an absolutely filthy combination. So I don't think that's going to be in the cards there. And if it is in the cards, I think it had to be an absurd price. The Chiefs aren't paying. You give me 2 first rounders, Devontae Adams is yours. If that's the case.
Yeah. And then, you got a lot of things that happened this past weekend. It's very interesting. The Baltimore Ravens look back. They absolutely dominated the Buffalo Bills. We talk about that. Jordan Love came back a little rusty, got 4 touchdown passes, but also 3 interceptions. But I did not have on my bingo card the Jets losing at home to the Denver Broncos. How hot is the seat for Robert Saleh?
I mean, it has to be scorching. I think that was quietly a rivalry game because you had Sean Payton taking over for Nathaniel Hackett, who's the Jets OC, and they had their back and forth when Payton got hired, and basically said the Broncos weren't built to win. He said Nathaniel Hackett did a terrible job, and you didn't win last year because you weren't put in a position to. So I think by the Broncos actually going out and winning that game, and not even just winning it, but that Jets offense looks stagnant and is as good as I guess the defense looked in that game. I mean, they only gave up 12 points in it in that game.
No, it was 10-9.
10-9. So in that game, like, you have to figure out what's going on with your offense. Allen Lazard has been your number 1 receiver all year, and you have Garrett Wilson. I get it. That's a familiar connection with Rodgers. Breece Hall hasn't looked like the stud running back that we all thought he was going to be. We had him all 3 of us had Breece Hall being a top 5 running back this year. And that hasn't been the case. You have Allen Lazard as your number one option out there. Garrett Wilson hasn't had any games so far this season over 60 yards. And we all think he's a top 10 receiver in football. That offense has to get it figured out. And I know Robert Saleh doesn't touch that side of the ball, but at some point, I mean, you see the like low key riffs on the sideline. You had a couple weeks ago, you had Saleh, and when he went up to Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers was like, "Hey, relax, like that was just the first score." And then even this week, like tried to give him the hug coming off the sidelines, and he's like kind of like brushed him off. I think the riffs are starting to be there, and if the Jets aren't winning, it's gonna most likely end up being a situation of, hey, it's gonna be, do we keep Aaron Rodgers or do we keep this coach for the 5th year that he hasn't been able to meet those expectations, and nothing has really changed.
Zero chance that Robert Saleh makes it through this year. If they don't make the playoffs or things start falling apart, there's no chance that happens. His seat is red hot in New York. When Mike Greenberg's calling for your job on ESPN, like, you realize how hot your seat is. I will say this, right? And, I don't want to go too far into the Jets thing, but I will say this. It seems like Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh. Well, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like Robert Saleh, which is kind of shitty, considering all the glow and all the prize and all the, the compliments that Saleh gave him. You're there. You have the opportunity to save the guy's job, and it just seems like when he goes in the press conference and Robert Saleh is trying to make excuses, like, yeah, the cadence and blah blah blah, and we're going to change up the cadence, and Rodgers like, well, how about we just hold people accountable in the press conference? Yeah. When you say shit like that, that's literally, you're trying to throw your coach under the bus.
And you then
just say that to him privately.
And just adding on to that. So obviously Robert said the comments. Aaron said that. And then Robert came back to the media and backtracked him. So when you have that kind of relationship between your quarterback and your head coach, everybody in the locker room sees that. So you have to know that you're losing the locker room game by game.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers lovers, this guy loves Aaron Rodgers more than anyone in the world. We're going to join in and making his record 208th appearance on Wire2Wire Network. We got Scholastic Shally. What's up, brother?
What up, bitches?
Well, I think Shally had a great day on the golf course today.
He might
have got the polo on.
I love it. What's up, Shal? We're talking about Aaron Rodgers and his his disdain now for Robert Saleh. I know that you're not his biggest fan, so I'm not sure if you've seen the press conference in which, Robert Saleh was talking about the cadence being off, and then Aaron Rodgers is like, well, how about we just hold people accountable? and then Robert Saleh then backtracked his comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, Robert Saleh now knows what it's like to live in the universe of Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
You know, I mean, listen, I will say this. I hate how much I've been defending Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years on this show because I am not a fan. That being said, if you're calling a play in a huddle, I think we've all played football. If you're calling a play in the huddle and there's some kind of tip or you say you're not going on first down or if it's being known that you're changing the cadence and the guys are still jumping, then I hate to say, but Aaron Rodgers is right. Like, you're a professional football player, you should be listening and doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think if you're using the word accountability, that's something that's kind of been lacking in the Jets organization for a long time. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is wrong there. And I also think Robert Saleh has to learn to, now that Aaron Rodgers is there healthy and playing every week and not in front of a camera, like he was, or being in front of a camera every week, not like he was last year when he was hurt. I think he has to learn how to kind of be on the same page and also realize Aaron Rodgers is going to go in there and speak his mind, for better or worse most of the time. And he has to learn how to live life like that now. But
I did not have Shally sticking up for Aaron Rodgers on my bingo card.
I know.
Me neither.
I know.
And I actually 100% disagree with him too.
But I mean, all right. But I just, again, I don't think this is what is always with Aaron Rodgers. I don't even disagree with what he says sometimes. It's the way he says it, the way he goes about doing things. So is he wrong in saying what he said by the letter of the law, by, like, for lack of better terms, throwing his lineman under the bus? No. But do you have to throw your lineman under the bus? No, you don't. So it's like, is he wrong saying people need to be accountable when we're all trying to do the same thing? No, he's not wrong. But to then get up there and knowingly, for lack of a better term, throw your lineman under the bus and also know you're going against what your head coach already said, that's the stuff that irritates me on Aaron Rodgers. I just, like, there's no reason for it. Like, hey, just do it behind closed doors. Be the leader, be the face, be everything that the Jets gave up to get you to take you to the promised land, and be that guy behind closed doors. So, I mean, because you see it on Hard Knocks. Like that was the one thing that was, like, I even, like, found myself, like, laughing at the guy, like, at Hard Knocks. I was like, all right, maybe he's not a total douche, but, like, you could be that guy all the time. But he chooses not to be sometimes, and that's why it's frustrating.
But the part I disagree with, though, is that I don't know if I've ever heard Robert Saleh say anything negative about Aaron Rodgers, and I think this was like that first time. And clearly there was something there where they did a silent count because it was too loud or the communication wasn't there. There was something going on there because I think the first 3 games they had only had 3 false starts, and in this game particularly they had 5. So clearly something changed there in their game plan or something like that. Because I don't think Robert Saleh would have just essentially threw Aaron under the bus if that wasn't the case. I think he was being open. He was being honest about the situation. Hey, the cadence messed these guys up this week. Now, I'm not saying it's all Aaron's fault, but this is what happened. The cadence threw these guys off. There was some, one time it would be like, hey, we're going to go after 3 seconds of the silent count. This time we go after 2 seconds of a silent count. Things like that. Inconsistencies there. And then Aaron came out and basically said, you want to talk about holding guys accountable? Aaron came out and said, hey, it's not my fault these guys were moving. I mean, hey, maybe my cadence was a little bit off here and a little bit off there, but these guys are moving before the ball snapped. And I think that is the repeated, I guess, behavior. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is never holding himself accountable. Like, you're never going to hear Aaron be like, hey, maybe that was on me just a little bit there. Maybe there was just miscommunication here and there between us. It was completely, hey, hold those linemen accountable because it's their fault. Well, maybe it's
great job to get
the team.
A great way to get them to protect for you too.
And you only scored 9 points. Like, you're throwing your lineman under the bus and you scored 9 points. You couldn't even muster a touchdown against the Broncos.
They held Bo Nix to -7 yards in the first half.
And lost. That's nuts.
Come to the dark side of Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not fully going there, but I just think it's wild that you were on his side here, and I'm completely on the opposite side.
The last thing I want to talk about for last week's games, and I don't want to go too far into this, but I do want to ask a question. Is Jaden Daniels the best quarterback in the NFC right now going forward?
Jeez.
In the NFC. I didn't say he's if he better than Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I'm asking, if you're starting a franchise tomorrow, would you rather have
that's even a different question.
Okay, all right. So let's just say the next 3 years.
All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. I already have my vision of what's gonna happen. Eberflus is getting fired, and Caleb Williams is gonna look like the second coming when Ben Johnson gets hired as the head coach in Chicago.
See, all right, here we go.
So I'm still rolling with Caleb.
Are you making excuses for Caleb?
I'm not making excuses for him, but I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen.
I'll tell you this, right? Here's the one thing I'll say about Chicago. If Eberflus gets fired and they hire another coach, if it's not Lincoln Riley or Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams will not be a successful quarterback in the city of Chicago.
Now that I can get behind.
So let me explain to you what I mean. And I've said this on the show multiple times, and I'm going to get into it again. Last year of John Fox's tenure as a Chicago Bears head coach, they drafted Mitch Trubisky in a lame duck year, then hired Matt Nagy to coach him. It did not work out. The last year of Matt Nagy's term, they drafted Justin Fields in a Matt Nagy's lame duck year. They hired Matt Eberflus to coach him. It did not work out. And the last year of Matt Eberflus's contract, they drafted Caleb Williams in Matt Eberflus's lame duck year. It's history repeating itself. There's a reason that these teams fail over and over and over and over again. I asked you guys this last week. Name me this. And by the way, I said this morning. You guys will get a kick out of this, right? I'm right on a lot of stuff I talk about in the NFL. You know what I was probably wrong about? Cliff Kingsbury. Because Kyler Murray is the problem, not Cliff. The offense that he designed with Jaden Daniels in Washington looks awfully a lot of the air raid offense that he designed in college football. And it's being ran the right way. And I can admit, I thought Cliff was, and granted, I don't know if Cliff will ever be a good head coach. I don't think he can hold his players accountable enough to be a good head coach. But when they asked Cliff Kingsbury about Jaden Daniels, he was very specific on the wording he used. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. First one here, last one out. He has studied and learned more than any quarterback I've ever coached. Very specific words. Is Jaden Daniels the best quarterback in the NFC? Like, going forward? Shall we?
I mean, again, I think if you would ask this preseason, I think everybody would pick Caleb. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I think we kind of all still agreed it was Caleb. But if you watch enough Chicago, I guess you could argue that there's stuff going on within that offense, and if you want to put some of that on Eberflus, that's fine. Caleb's also not playing well, so like a lot of it rests at his feet. Now that being said, I'm not going to trash the kid. He's still a rookie. Like, that's what rookies are supposed to look like. I hate to say it, but I mean, I know we get too used to instant gratification and we want kids to come in and win 14 games their first year, blah, blah, blah. It's not realistic. It's not. That being said, what Jaden Daniels is doing is mind-boggling right now. So if I was starting the franchise the next 3 years, your realistic options then are, but I'm saying, like, if you're going even by age at that point, you're Jordan Love, Jalen. I mean, Dak's only 3 years older at that point. He's not even in the conversation.
Purdy, Goff.
Yeah.
Purdy, Goff. Stafford's going to be too old.
Kyler.
I mean, you can't even put JJ in there because he hasn't even played. So you have no idea what that is.
They get Daniel Jones, Bryce Young. Look at those guys. They're ready. Baker.
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr's going to age. I mean, he's definitely going to be age. He's probably not. He might not be the starter in 3 years. But again,
Mike, NFC
Penix Jr. So yeah, I mean, if you're asking me right now, based upon what I've seen, I still don't think we've seen the absolute best, but I would have to go based upon what my eyes have seen so far. I would pick Jaden. I still think
my answer,
Caleb. It's the Caleb thing is just frustrating, but I mean, it'd be if you're the first pick. I mean, it's hard to be like, you know what, I'm going to take Caleb because I still think Caleb is this when Jaden Daniels is doing what he's doing.
My answer is Jordan Love. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFC. I think he's the best quarterback now. I think he'll be the best quarterback in 2 years from now. And I think that he has proven that. He has proven me, who was a skeptic going into the season, as a believer for just 2 games. The guy's got accuracy. I'm going Jordan Love. So we got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Jordan Love. No one had that on their bingo card going into the season. Well, maybe Control did.
So I will say, I forgot what coach said it, and I got to paraphrase here because I don't have the exact quote in front of me right now. But the coach basically said, coaches fail, like in terms of like rookie quarterbacks, like coaches or like organizations fail players way faster than the player fails the organization.
You're absolutely correct. But the point is this, though, Control, and this is the thing I'll talk about Chicago. You got to stop having coaches coaching for their job.
I know, no, but that's literally my point, though. Like that is the point. Like I think
you shouldn't have a lame duck coach coaching Caleb Williams.
Exactly. So I think you're forcing Caleb to, and granted, he hasn't played well. Like I want that to be abundantly clear. Has not played well. Like whatever you take away from this, note that has not played well is the forefront of that. But you have these coaches that when you're a rookie, you're trying to develop players. What Washington is doing right now with Jaden Daniels, they're developing him into a great quarterback. Yes, the system is in place to try to compete now, but they are developing him, and they're letting him run the offense that's built for him. In Chicago, they don't give a damn what Caleb Williams does. They want to win football games. If Caleb Williams goes out there and he goes 12 for 37 every single game, throws for 105 yards, but they win, they're happy with that end result. You are not going to have successful rookie quarterbacks playing that way and be successful. So I'm with you like on that point there, but I think that is the point. I think moving forward, again, it's way too early here, but Chicago is they're going to have to bring in an offensive-minded guy, and I think Ben Johnson is going to be that guy. That's my way too early prediction there.
Okay. Caleb Williams and a bunch of Chicago Bears players after the game met with offensive coordinator Shane Waldron and said, we're not a Pop Warner team. You got to switch things up. And that shit got leaked to the media. That's pretty bad. But, all right, we got to preview some games this week. But before we preview, it is 8 o'clock. I think it should be trivia time. Am I off here? Are we good there?
It's fine with me.
Then we'll preview, get some pick 'em. And by the way, Bill, I'm ready. My gloves are off today for a debate we're going to have tonight. So I'm going to give us some time for that.
On what?
I will get there. I promise. It's trivia time, though. It is trivia time. Now, I've now successfully hidden the chat. So you can hide the chat on Restream. The chat is now hidden, so I cannot see anyone's answers. This was a conversation that came up. The chat is now hidden. If you want, I could take a picture of it and show you. I don't know if you believe me. But
I mean, I believe you.
Okay. Cottrell is now asking the question. These are the trivia scores right now. It's Gene versus Shally tonight. Let's get rolling.
All right, gentlemen.
Crack the beer. Corona.
So this week, I wanted to give you guys top 10 list, of course. Top 10 highest grossing sports video game franchises For example, if
Yeah.
we go non-sports, if I say franchises, don't just give me Rockstar, give me Grand Theft Auto. So run with that as you may. That's my example. So run with that as you may.
Okay. I'll go first, and I'll take the low-hanging fruit of Madden.
Madden, number 2 on this list.
I will go with NBA 2K.
NBA 2K is at number 4.
So hold on. Let me just be clear when I say this. If I say live, does it have to be the sport?
What do you mean? Yes,
So,
it does have to be. Yes, it has to be the sport.
I'll just go FIFA.
FIFA, number 1 on the list.
I see that's why I was asking if I say live, because live's an entire like EA, Electronic Arts is.
No. Yeah, I got to go specific game franchise.
Okay. I mean, I'll go NHL, EA NHL.
NHL is strike 1. They are not in the top 10. I was surprised by that myself.
That's fair. Okay, so would Wii Sports count?
It would count if you take that as a guess.
That's my guess. Wii Sports.
That is strike 1 for you,
okay,
my friend.
So, but Wii Sports is like on the list, though, right? Like you're sure that that's a real thing?
No, that is a thing. Okay. Yes,
I'm shocked they wouldn't be top 10 then. Are you sure that the list?
You have to, Gene. You have to think that there are games that have been coming out for a really long time.
Got it.
Crap. All right, can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah, I would love questions. I'm going to ask a question too.
Are the wrestling games counting as sports?
Yes, they are.
Then I'll go with WWE.
WWE 2K is number 6.
All right, so then I get to ask a question. Is there retired games that have been retired, like they haven't come out in the last few years?
Well, he didn't say current. He said top 10 of all time.
Correct. That's what I'm asking. So is there like games that have been like essentially retired?
Yes, but I don't want to give you the wrong impression with that. Like,
well, you know where I'm going with that, right?
I don't, but
I'm going NBA Live.
Okay, NBA Live is number 7. That's actually not what I was referring to, but
no, but like
yes,
NBA Live doesn't have a game anymore. 2K swallowed it,
right?
Like, so my question would have been that, right?
No, I get that, but yes, NBA Live's on the list. They're number 7 for what it's worth.
All right, so it's 3-3.
No, I should be at 1. We both have 1 strike, so I went first. I should be up 1. Am I wrong?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should be 3-2.
3-2. That's fair. He gave that's exactly because it's his pick now. He wouldn't be up. It's 1 strike each.
I'm gonna go with EA PGA Tour.
EA PGA Tour is number 9.
Great guess
on the list.
That was a great guess there. All right, let's get fun here. I have okay, MLB The Show.
MLB The Show is a strike.
Wow,
very
the show isn't on the list.
Very surprised they were not in the top 10.
Wow.
Number 10 is gonna blow your mind. So.
Okay.
So there's 4 left.
You have number 3, number 5, number 8, and number 10, and these are 100% the hardest ones.
Okay.
The 4 hardest.
I'm so shocked that the show was not on there.
Me too.
I'm not even gonna lie. It was my next guess. I will go. All right, I'll go old school here.
I'm going old school too, bro. I got 3 old school ones.
I'm going NBA Jam.
NBA Jam is not on the list.
All right,
I'll give you guys, like, Gene, you can go now, and then I'll give you guys both.
No, I went first, so you should.
Whatever you're gonna do, you gotta do it now. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. No, you guys both go through like one more time each, and then I'll give you guys that make it too easy. I don't know how to do the hint, but
okay.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out as you guys go.
We shouldn't do hints until we both get 3 strikes. That's my opinion.
That's why I said 2 more times going through. Well,
Okay.
one more
All right.
time each going through.
Let me go with. Well, see, it's an entire franchise. So, fuck it. Tecmo Bowl.
Tecmo Bowl is not on the list.
Okay. I don't I didn't know where to go. Think of games that people would buy.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, I know one. I know one
Oh.
100%.
Ooh, this has to be on the list. If this is not on the list, this would be more shocking to me than the show not being on the list. Going Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater is number 8.
Let's go.
It's a great one. So we both went one time through. So where's do you have any we getting anything here? Right now, is it 4-3,
Okay.
Charlie? Is that what's that?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's 3 more left here. The hint is because I can't give it to you. I can't give you the hints on the 3 games specifically. But my hint would be there are no longer any more games from the 4 major sports.
That's fair. I kind of figured that. He went Pro Skater. That makes sense. So I'm going with so I have to get the exact name of the game. I can't give you the sport.
You can't just say air hockey game.
No. I'm trying to think of the name. I'm trying to think of the name of the sport. It's like a boxing game. The champions of like you get where I'm going, right? It's the early 2000s. It's a boxing the champions, and it's had Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali.
So he's talking about Fight Night.
Fight Night. That's it.
Okay, so is that your guess?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're not on the list.
Okay. It's okay. I Fight Night was well.
I wasn't gonna leave my man hanging.
Appreciate that. You know exactly what I was talking about, though.
I did. As soon as you
I
started,
didn't know which sport you were going at
Yeah.
first, but I just thought you were going to say, in this case, the boxing game. It's got to be on there. Like, no.
All right, I'm gonna think outside the box here. With FIFA was what, 1?
Yeah.
Yes.
The popularity of this sport the last couple of years has gone through the roof, and I would dare say they probably sell more FIFA across the pond than they do here. I'm going with F1.
F1 is not on the list. That is a great guess, though.
Give me a UFC game.
UFC is not on the list.
I thought that was for sure.
I'll say this. I got to go after Bill.
You gotta go.
If Bill gets this, I think he wraps it up. I can only tie. And I don't think we're getting number 10 based on the way you said it.
Number 10 is damn near impossible.
Sure.
I would have not guessed this in a million years. To be honest, I didn't even know what the hell it was.
It's fair.
I'm going to say EA NASCAR. They've changed the name of the game like 9 times, but like there's Heat, there's Rivals, there's all kinds of stuff.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
So my next hint was going to be 2 of these games are the same sport, and then the other one's different.
Okay, that's fair. So, and it's not 4 major sports, and 2 are the same sport. Boxing, not fighting.
What?
He said not 4 major sports left. So it can't be. I'm thinking baseball games. That's what I'm thinking. I'm shocked there's no baseball games on there. But like just to be clear, you wouldn't screw me if I said Wii Sports and it was Wii Tennis, right? Like you're not going to screw me. Okay.
No.
Just making sure I'm in this team.
No.
Okay. Give me. Give me a second to think. Actually. No. And then is X Games. That's where I'm going to go. X Games. Okay.
No, sir.
All right. Oh, I got one that could be it.
So there's 3 left. You said 2 of them are the same sport.
Yes.
And then 1 is the number 10 one that's damn near impossible. One of the same sports, or is that the standalone one?
That is one of the same.
Okay.
And Gene, also, We'll talk. We'll talk after.
Okay.
After.
So you're saying you cheated me on one? I can feel it.
After Bill goes here, Bill goes here, I will vindicate you.
I'm just trying to think. Oh man, I feel like one of these two is probably on it, and if I don't guess the right one, then Gene will get the other one. I'm just opening the door.
I'm rooting for you to get this wrong, Bill. By the way,
thanks.
You can get the one after this right, but hoping you get it wrong here.
I'm going back to racing. I'm going with Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo is number 5.
Let's go.
Okay, so we're done. No, we're not. I can get 2 in time.
No, you can tie.
What were you gonna vindicate me?
Wii Sports is not included in this list, but it 100% would have been the number 1 game here. Well, but not number 1 game here. Not number one game, but hear me out. Wii Sports is the 4th highest grossing game of all time, but that's just singular, like one game.
Yeah, that was my whole point. That's why I thought that would be.
But it's not. But it's not just one game, though. It's like the entire franchise. So, like, I just wanted to let you know, like, that's why it's not on the list.
Sense.
But
that's why I asked if Wii Sports would be there. I should have did a redo there. That's fine. I'm gonna go Mario Kart.
Oh,
that is a great guess, but it is not on the list.
I
don't know if they count that like towards this list here. No, I get it.
I feel like that would be top 10 too, by the way.
I get it, especially with how long the series has been going, but they're not on the list.
So
here.
then I get another guess if they're not on the list. Is that fair?
What? No.
Okay.
What? I mean,
I've literally had 2 that are probably top 10 grossing games, but aren't on his sports list. Mario Kart's a top 10 game, 100%.
You didn't say game, you said franchises.
It's fair. All right, take a guess. You get it, you win. You're going to get one anyway. You just said the one, so it's the same sport as the other one. I guarantee it's racing. It's probably
I'll go Forza.
Forza's incorrect.
Would have never got that.
Oh, man, they're big racing games.
Would like Twisted Metal work?
Oh shit. I don't know why.
Would that be like a racing game?
Twisted Metal is probably like on the edge.
I don't have it on the list here.
Okay. All right.
So
let me go. Pete Sampras.
Wasn't it that his freaking guess?
Well, I'm asking if it would count as a sports game.
And he said it wasn't on the list. I'll go Need for Speed.
Need for Speed's not on the list.
Pete Sampras.
Not on the list.
All right,
you guys are missing. The 2 you're missing are the 2 that are the same sport.
Oh, man. Like I'll be frank. Like I have one guess left. I played this game and I didn't like it and I sucked at it and it was completely different than FIFA. And I know people like swear by it. I don't think they even make it anymore though. I just don't know if they sold enough of it. Oh. I can't think of any other sports games I ever played.
I already updated the score, shall I? I'm done.
I'll go. Is it like? I don't know if that's even the right name for it. I want to say it's like.
It's thrown in the light out.
It's just. I think it's like Pro Evolutionary Soccer or something.
Pro Evolution Soccer is number 3.
There you go. I bought it once and I hated it.
Good job.
Gene feels so fucking cheated right now.
I do. I feel like it was a very bad question. But I won't blame Cottrell for my failures.
What was number 10?
Number 10 game I have never heard of, but apparently it's been out for a long fucking time. Football Manager. It's a soccer game.
Don't know what it is.
Soccer game.
I'm into soccer and I play soccer games. I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, next week I will come up with a ridiculous question that makes no friggin' sense, that will have multiple answers that don't make sense, and we'll continue.
I mean, hey, you got me like that the first time when we did a characters list from some random news website. So it happens.
You're right.
We all do bad questions sometimes.
Jesus.
Let's talk about a couple preview games. There's not a lot of winning teams versus winning teams, but I do want to preview 100%. The Bills are playing out the Texans. Bills coming off a loss. Texans coming off a comeback win versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The game is in Houston. This is the Stephon Diggs revenge game. So if you want to throw in your props and if you want to have Stephon Diggs on your fantasy team, I promise you, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans will be cooking up ways for him to get the ball. Houston is the home team here. D'Amico Ryans, Josh Allen coming off that Sunday night loss, back-to-back road games. Who do you guys like in Buffalo at Houston?
I will say this. I hope D'Amico Ryans is smart enough not to fall into we have to have Stephon Diggs have a great game against Buffalo type thing, because that's the reason he left Buffalo. Just go out and keep playing the way you're playing. Let CJ Stroud spread the ball around. Use Nico, use everybody else. I'm not saying not target them, but if you're going to sit there and take a half the field away and makes Stroud force the ball in there, it's the easiest way to let Buffalo stay in this game. I know Buffalo's banged up defensively. If there's one thing that's I think I want to say a little concerning for me is really haven't seen that kind of edge or that next step for Houston's defense this year so far. I think the offenses look pretty good in every game. I think the defense is still kind of finding their footing. Buffalo coming off the beating that they took last week, I think they'll play better, but I think they're going to come into kind of with the anti-Stephon Diggs thing. We're going to come in here and try to beat you, show you that it wasn't you. So I think it's a very close game. I will, if I was going to pick it, I will take CJ Stroud and the boys at home though.
I am indeed picking this game. However, with that said, I do think this game gets very interesting because it's that Stephon Diggs homecoming game. I think Buffalo will come out with a lot to prove in this one. I think they want to show that, hey, this committee that we have here, this is what's important and this is what works for us. Also think it's big that Buffalo not only lost, but they got the doors blown off them last week against Baltimore. So I think they're going to come in with a lot to prove in this game. And I think for Houston, they've kind of settled back in the reality here, being 2-2, and obviously they still have the division in front of them. But you kind of thought that the way that they looked that first game and just with the roster that they have, that they would be dominating a lot of teams. And that hasn't been the case so far. So I think this is a very interesting matchup here. But I'll give you the rest of the breakdown during Pick'em.
All right, so I love the Houston Texans in this game, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'd love the over in this game. Honestly, if I was making a play on this, I would say take the over. I think both these teams are going to go back and forth. They're playing on carpet. The surface will not be an issue. I think Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills really didn't get stopped moving the ball, even though they scored 10 points. They literally just hurt themselves. Like penalties, weird penalties. They just did a lot of different things that stopped drives that didn't feel like their offense sputtered. I think Joe Brady will have that Buffalo team ready to rock and roll. I think CJ Stroud will have that Houston team ready to rock and roll. I think it's a high-scoring game. I think it reminds you a lot of that Cleveland Browns, Houston Texans playoff game in which you just see teams just scoring left and right. Von Miller is out. He's suspended 4 weeks for a violation. I think that hurts the edge rush for Buffalo. Sean McDermott is a defensive coach, but they can't keep losing defensive guys and be good. I think that Houston's secondary eats. And I think they eat because CJ Stroud has time. And I think if CJ Stroud has time, I think the Texans end up winning this game 38-31. It's kind of where I'm at. I think the Buffalo Bills offense is going to move the ball efficiently. But we'll see how it plays out. Any other games you guys want to talk and preview? Because
it's a weird week for the NFL.
Correct. Like Steelers Cowboys is a weird one, but like I'm picking it, so I don't want to go too far into that one. That is the Sunday night football game. Saints Chiefs, but the Saints have lost 2 straight. The Chiefs are 4-0. We talked about the Chiefs already with Rashee Rice. There's a lot. The only thing I want to bring up NFL that we haven't talked about is the Devontae Adams situation that's happening in Las Vegas. I'm going to ask you guys a question I asked Mo this morning. I don't want to say 100% quit in the game. I don't want to say that. But
Why
do you
not?
think Devontae Adams could have been one of the guys Antonio Pierce was talking about that made business decisions in that game versus Carolina? And now
100%.
you are 100. See, I thought it was very obvious when the second half, his targets were nothing. They threw the ball and his routes were done. And granted, he could have, they said he injured his hamstring at practice, but he could have injured it in the game and could have been a little bit tweaked. But it looked like Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker got every ball in that second half. And they were running routes and they were playing that game hard. And it looked like Devontae Adams quit. It looked like quit.
I mean, I'll let Kachuk go because I feel like he has more to say. But I agree because I think you look at how fast this escalated from we're not trading him, we're not taking calls, don't bother, don't waste your time, to guys made business decisions and now it's we'll trade him, call us. Like,
guys make business decisions, and we will make business decisions going forward. I love the way Antonio Pierce put that, and then stood on business and went out and won a football game.
Correct. So I think to answer your first question, 100%, like Cottrell said, and B, I think that is a relationship that is just it's done. Like he's going to get traded.
Yeah, and I mean, I think to just double down on that, you had that quote, and then you come out and, obviously we saw how the game went, but you also have the report come out that Devontae Adams wants to get traded. Then another report comes out from a writer at Sports Illustrated that said, hey, I think we've seen Devontae Adams play his last game as a Raider. And who liked the post on Instagram? None other than Antonio Pierce himself. Yep. Now, granted, he later removed the like, but I think, and I also think, he probably didn't realize that people can see that I like this post here.
Yeah, you can't see it on Twitter, but you can see it on Instagram.
Exactly. He probably didn't realize that. But, with that said, I definitely think that's one of the guys he was talking about. I think he was talking about him. I think potentially the quarterback. I think that was part of the reason why.
Quit, 100%.
No. I don't think he quit, but I'm saying, like, when he said we'll have to make business decisions, I think that was his mindset of like, all right, maybe I need to make a quarterback change. I don't think it was all 100% just trading guys, cutting guys, things like that.
They had
but
a couple
I
guys
think
in
it was
secondary that pulled up lame on tackles. That's what I think he was
talking about. I get that, but I'm just saying I think Antonio Pierce went to this season with a expectation, and he knew what he wanted to get out of this football team: production, effort, like all that stuff. I think that all played a part into it. That's why I think he ultimately said, I don't know who my starting quarterback's going to be in the Cleveland game. Ultimately, it ended up being Gardner, and they won the game. But I think that was a part of why he said that as well. Now, I do think there were a lot of players who did make their own business decisions in the game and, gave up on plays and things like that. And I 100% think Devontae Adams was one of those guys that he was talking about. Devontae Adams has never been a guy that we've associated with the term diva. A lot of the receivers in the NFL always get classified as like diva, hard to work with, hard to play with, wants their targets, things like that. You even saw in the receiver show, Devontae Adams wants the ball and he wants to win. And you saw how frustrated he got with Jimmy Garoppolo, but we still never gave him that diva term. Right. It almost feels like this year, he's like, hey, this is now, I know he had Derek Carr and that's his boy and he wanted to play with him, but this is his third consecutive year since he's left Aaron Rodgers where he has had subpar quarterback play. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to be frustrated with what's been going on and lack of success there, but I think it's fair to say that he's given up on this team. I think he went into the season with already 1 foot out. Like, we saw how bad last year was, and it was like, hey, as soon as I get the first time that things are going south here, I'm out. I need my way out. I need to get somewhere else where I have a better opportunity, get more targets, and a better opportunity to win. And that was the case there. And I think Antonio Pierce saw right through that because he's going to keep it real with you 100% of the time. That's why they hired him as their head coach. And that's why he had that locker room buy into him the way that they did.
100% agree with you. I don't even think I can work that any better. Like, honestly, Control, like, there's a lot of times where we'd say something that I cannot wait. I'm chomping at the bit to argue with you. I agree with everything you just said. Shall we?
No, I mean, I don't disagree with anything either. And again, if you gave Pierce the job and you gave him the contract and you gave him the rope to do things the way he wants to do it, and if you're going to let him really steer the ship and make the team what it is and make it his way with his type of guys, then you have to back him. And if Devontae wants to be Devontae and kind of be the diva and force his way out, and the locker room's behind Pierce and all that, then yeah, he's got to go. He's the one that's going to not look good in the end of this. So, it's I understand the frustration, but again, there's always we talk about on the show all the time. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things. If you're frustrated, have a meeting with Antonio Pierce, be like, hey, out of respect, you played the game for a long time. I only have 2-3 years, maybe, left to be elite physically what I'm doing. I love what you're doing here, and I respect the hell out of it, but I don't want to sit here through the rebuild. That's a completely mature way to do it, and who knows what Antonio Pierce even says? Who knows what the front office says? But you go about doing, you start doing things publicly, then people take sides. And again, I don't think Devontae Adams is the one that's going to come out smelling like roses here. I don't.
All right, let's get into NFL Pick'em this week, guys. We got our picks up on the screen right now. Cottrell is in the lead. I am second, and Shally moving up the leaderboard in third. How are we looking this week? What's our order?
More things change, more they stay the same. I will go. I feel like I always have Bill goes first. I go in the middle here, and then Gene, you round it out.
You've been going one. You've been leading off.
Well, I'll keep that then.
You've been going one. I've been going two. Gene's been going last.
All right. Well, Bill went 2-1 last week. Let's keep that rolling. So this week for me, my first game, I'll start out with that Houston game. I love Houston plus 1.5 at home versus Buffalo. I do think that Houston will incorporate a lot of Stephon Diggs into that offense, but also think just his teammates around him are going to play a little bit more just because they know how much that means to him. CJ Stroud's been playing incredible football. I know they're only 2-2, but he's been playing incredible. I think ultimately they get it done against Buffalo. They win the game at home. Second game I like the Bears minus 4.5 versus the Panthers. I get it. Panthers look like a different team because Andy Dalton's been their starting quarterback there, but I don't see a way for this Bears team, especially now that DeAndre Swift's coming off of a game where he had some success there, and week by week Caleb's getting better. I mean, if there's any team that you want to get better against, it's the Carolina Panthers. So I think Chicago may try some things. Shane Waldron may have had a fire lit up under him after the meeting that they had this week. I like the Bears minus 4.5 there. And the last game, I like the Saints plus 5.5 at Kansas City. I don't think the Saints are going to win this football game, but I think Kansas City, every game so far this season has been decided by one possession for them. And the Saints have played everybody hard as well. I think the offense has obviously came back down to earth, but I think they still will be able to somewhat keep up with that Kansas City offense. And this being the first week without Rashee Rice on the team, I think you're going to see that Kansas City offense really try to pick up the pieces and figure out what direction they want to go in moving forward. I think it's a tight game. Never going to bet against Kansas City at home to lose a football game, but I do think the Saints cover the spread at 5.5.
Okay.
All right. Well, I will start with your last one because I'm going against you on this one. I'm taking Kansas City minus 5.5 at home. When I first saw this, I still thought with Kansas City being home, still have Patrick Mahomes. We've seen him do it too many times. I thought it would at least be a full possession spread. Minus 5.5. I think this game ends 27-20, somewhere around there. I think Kansas City covers. I think they get Kelsey back on track. They go back to leaning on him. I know Rashee Rice being out is going to be, a big blow because he has been very productive. I think you see a lot more plays designed for Xavier Worthy. And I think you're going to see Hunt. I think Hunt's going to have a decent game running the ball to keep them balanced. So I think Kansas City covers at home minus 5.5. Second, Arizona at San Francisco minus 7.5, going San Fran. Offense looks like it's back on track even without C-Mac. The defense is starting to play better, playing well. They got Kittle back last week at home. I think that train just keeps on rolling. Arizona struggled to stop a lot of people so far this year. Even as much as Kyler's starting to play better and hoping he turns the page there, I like the 49ers at home too much. Last but not least, Baltimore minus 2.5 at Cincinnati. I'm going with the Ravens. 2 wins in a row, kind of got their mojo back and kind of back on track. I know Cincinnati finally, won a game last week against Carolina, though, and they struggled to put them away. I like Baltimore's defense. I like Baltimore's run game with Derrick Henry. Cincinnati has been abysmal against the run. I think Baltimore pulls one out in Cincinnati, so I'll take the Ravens -2.5.
That was a game I almost picked this week against you because I thought it was such a trap spread. I thought it was one of those spreads. You're like, they just came off a 35-10 win over Buffalo, and they're only a 2.5-point favorite. Like, I feel like the public's going to be all over Baltimore in that game. But I guess we'll find out. I don't know that yet. That's not one of my games. I'll start with Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys are missing Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and they're going to play at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off a loss. I love the Steelers in this football game. Give me the Steelers -2.5. I think they beat Dallas. I think they beat them up, if I'm being honest with you. I think Justin Fields is getting better. His connection with George Pickens is getting better. You've seen the targets go up. I think the Steelers have a big game, and they beat the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Give me the Steelers -2.5. I'm following Cottrell's lead on this one. I got the Bears -4, -4.5, whatever you guys have it at, over the Carolina Panthers. I think that Matt Eberflus will have a game plan to slow down Andy Dalton. And I think that defense is going to have no problem controlling the Carolina Panthers offense. And I believe Caleb gets it on track, and I believe anybody can run the ball versus Carolina. So give me the Bears -4 or 4.5 over the Carolina Panthers. Here's my lock of the year, guys. Dog, lock. I think the one thing that we're all missing is this, right? Brian Flores has done such an incredible job of scheming defenses up there. Super difficult for quarterbacks to understand what he's doing. He's running like a cover 8, which is insane. It's like an inverted cover 4 in which the corners are dropping back, the safeties are dropping down. He's allowing you to get short throws in the flat. If there's anybody that can 100% dissect that type of defense, it's Aaron Rodgers. I love the Jets defense to make Sam Darnold see ghosts again. And I love the Jets to win this game +2.5. It's my lock of the week. It's my lock of the month. It's my lock of the year. And if the Jets do not win this game or cover the 2.5, I will not pick them for the rest of the year. I'm done. I will give it up. I guarantee you the Jets +2.5 is the greatest play you will ever play. It's 100% a stone cold lead pipe. Whatever you want to look at it at, I got the Jets +2.5.
Fair enough.
I guarantee it wins. Guaranteed. I might sell my kidney on eBay. It's in London, too. I really just love the Jets in that game. It's looked at, and I love when they list it as a home game for Minnesota, because so many people look at sports books and like, oh, the game's in Minnesota. No, it's not. It's not a home game. It's a neutral site game. It's just it's so much that the sports books are trying to do to get you to bet on the Jets. The Vikings coming off a ridiculous win over the Packers, in which it was 31-29. They almost gave the game away. The Jets coming off the ultimate low, losing at home to the Denver Broncos. It is such a perfect bounce back, letdown game. I just can't picture a better spot here. Now, college football did us a favor. They knew we had an action-packed show this week. So they only gave us one ranked versus ranked match.
It's the calm before the storm.
It's fair. But if you want like an in-depth breakdown in college football, you have to tune in to Sideline to Sideline. It's Jesus Christ, Coast to Coast, Saturday morning.
2 weeks in a row.
You have to tune in to Coast Saturday morning. Over 1,000 views again. These guys are absolutely killing it. Full college football show. They're disgusting. So tune into it. What we're going to give you is just a sampler. It's a little appetizer, a little dusting, and we're going to give you that, and you're going to get your full breakdown Saturday morning. Here's where I'm at. There's only one ranked game, and I'm picking it.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm going to digress.
I think, though, before we do that, can we talk about what was potentially the game of the year? Like Absolutely. What might end up being the game of the year?
I apologize.
I'll be damn shocked if it's not. Because if it's not, that means that we're in store for something absolutely batshit insane in the next couple of weeks. Because if we're going to get one, it's going to be better. It's going to be in the next 2 weeks.
You're absolutely correct. We have to talk about that game. Georgia, Alabama was, I don't want to say it's advertised because it reminded me of the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl, in which the 28-3 comeback, except there was a 17-year-old wide receiver and a Heisman favorite quarterback that linked up on a 70-yard play right after Georgia took the lead after being down 28-0. And there's a 17-year-old kid that's a future top 10 draft pick in the NFL on Alabama. There's a quarterback that's a future top 10 draft pick in the NFL in Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe looks like his growth with Kalen DeBoer looks like the Michael Penix leap. I don't know what he does with quarterbacks. I don't understand like the quarterback whisperer he is, but he looked like a different quarterback. I got to give credit where credit's due. Alabama won the game. I thought Georgia would look like they did in the second half. Yo, I'm going to say something very simple. Carson Beck in that first half of that football game did everything possible to throw that game. He was terrible. It was the worst I've ever seen Carson Beck look ever. I thought Georgia should make a quarterback change. And then in the second half, here comes Georgia throwing the ball deep, bomb after bomb after bomb. It was almost like they just figured something out. That was an incredible game.
Tell you what they figured out. Kalen DeBoer does not know how to coach with the lead. We see it time and time and time again. I mean, just look at the playoff last year. Washington, it felt like Washington had that Texas game in firm control. And what do you know? Next thing you know, Quinn Ewers is leading the charge down the field. And, you know, we saw ultimately how that game ended and how tight it ended. The Washington-Oregon game. Obviously, it wasn't 28-0 big, but the first Washington-Oregon game, Washington had a lot of control in that game, or even the second one as well. It almost feels like Kalen DeBoer, he lets out that exhale during the game, and he's like, all right, let's play not to lose. Same thing that the Falcons did, 28-3. You play the soft coverage, and, you know, teams eat it up and things like that. But to your point, though, that Alabama offense is scary. And I've been saying it all year on Coast to Coast. I love the weapons that they have and how explosive they can get on offense. Obviously, Ryan Williams is the guy that we talk about, and deservedly so. I mean, kid's a 17-year-old freshman. And the one quote that I absolutely love from him is they asked him preseason, one of the Alabama reporters asked him preseason, you know, ultimately, you know, it's crazy. You could have broke every high school Alabama record here. Like, what made you go to college a year early? And he said, after you see my season, you'll understand exactly why I'm playing college football like this year. Like, that is the amount of confidence that you have to have as a 17-year-old to say that as not only a receiver at the FBS level, but in the SEC. And he wasn't going up against some scrub. Malachi Starks is going to be a future first-round pick in the 2025 draft. Malachi Starks is the truth. And he went out there with no worry in the world and did everything he needed to do to help win that football game. And like you mentioned as well, Jalen Milroe is a top tier quarterback in college football right now, and his growth has been exponential. I was talking last year about how I thought that kid should have got benched last year and they wouldn't win anything with him, and even the growth that he had after being benched with Saban. But he's taken even another leap this year with DeBoer being there. So absolutely incredible to watch. And the last thing I'll touch on here is Carson Beck. I will say I never had Carson Beck as like my number one or number two quarterback in this class. I still don't think that way. However, with that said, I have such more like respect for him as a quarterback, because it could have easily been I'm not saying he could have just mailed it in, but it could have just been woe is me. Hey, chalk this up to a bad game. And, you know, it is what it is. We still have title dreams and things like that. But it was never that way with him. He was like, hey, if I'm going to go out, you know, I'm going to go out shooting 1 for 30 because I trust my guys out there. And I know what kind of talent I have. So give him all the credit in the world. And if you're a Georgia fan, that second half has to give you still a lot of hope, even though you lost to Bama. That second half has to give you a lot of hope still in your championship aspirations.
Love it. Love it. Shal, any comments you want to make on this game before we move on?
No, I mean, just kind of like Cottrell said, like what we mentioned on Saturday. I mean, that game went back and forth for me. Head said Georgia, gut said Bama. I went with Bama. But I keep going back to kind of, a couple things me and Cottrell both mentioned, numerous times on this show and then even coast to coast. My biggest issue is that all the talk up to that game was about Georgia. It wasn't about Alabama. I think you to go into their building and beat them, and they were the number 4 seed in the country at that time. fourth ranked team in the country, and nobody's talking about them. Nobody's talking about Jalen Milroe. You had a kid that was, a couple bad snaps away from possibly beating the national champions last year. And you always see the big jump.
Anything to bring that up, Hasho.
What I think it's very telling how much of the kids jump between the sophomore and the junior year. That's when you always see the big jump, and you see it with other quarterbacks all the time. And a lot of people, I think, even coming into this year, Nick Saban's not there anymore. Like, what was he going to look like on the calendar board? I think you have your answer. I think the kid. I think the kid's on his revenge tour. I do, and I said that on Saturday. And I think something that Cottrell said was very telling, and I couldn't agree with him more Saturday, and I definitely agree with him now. I think Alabama was going to win this game, like we both predicted, but this was going to finally light the fire, I think, under Georgia, and I think you saw that in the second half. I think they're about to lay a couple beatings on some people the next couple weeks. I do. I think it's, I think we are we're about to see the Georgia we thought we were going to get.
100%. Cottrell, bring us into the next game this week.
Yeah, so this week, Gene's taking a little hiatus here. This week, we only got one ranked matchup, like he had already said. We got another SEC matchup this week. We got Missouri traveling down College Station and taking on the Texas A&M Aggies. Bill, how do you see that game breaking down? I will say the spread definitely shocked me when I first saw it. Missouri's 9th-ranked team in the country, and they're undefeated, and they are 2.5-point underdogs on the road.
So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because when I was scrolling through today and I saw that, and I was like, wow, like that is it stuck out to me very quickly. I will say this. I think, I mean, I don't know if you would agree. I think we have a better idea of what Texas A&M is versus what Missouri really is.
That I agree with.
And I think we're going to find out Saturday what Missouri is. I think that offense is kind of been getting them out of jams and kind of covering up a lot of mistakes. I don't think that defense is good. I don't know if Texas A&M is necessarily the team to exploit it and put up a big game. I don't know who they're going to start at quarterback. But first, really true road test of the year for Missouri team. And I think you see it's part of the reason why I think you see the spread of what it is. I don't think anybody really knows what they are. They've held on to that ranking because they really haven't played anybody, and they were preseason. I think they were 8 or 9. So they've just kind of inched up as a couple of teams have lost in front of them. They don't have an impressive win yet, and then they're going to go on the road in SEC and play in one of the most hostile environments in the country. So I'm very curious. I'm curious to see how Texas A&M kind of has another chance here to kind of get a signature win and kind of put themselves back in the race. Because if they lose this game, they're it's a national college football playoff wise, they're in trouble. Sure. It's hard for me to pick A&M because I do like Missouri's offense. But that being said, I think they're going to be able to move the ball against the Missouri defense. So I actually think A&M pulls us out at home.
So the one interesting tidbit about this game is that the quarterback that's been playing for A&M the last couple of weeks, Marcel Reed, his sister is actually the AD of on-campus recruiting at Missouri. And Eli Drinkwitz basically came out and said, well, she won't be at practice all week just to avoid any potential conflicts of interest. So that got a lot of people, some eyes looking that way and some heads turning that way. So that's going to be a fun little story to kind of follow throughout the rest of this week here. He kind of cleared the air on it, said it was like more so a joke, things like that. But I almost think, the old saying of, all good jokes contain, true stuff. And in the words of Jermaine Cole there, I will say ultimately, I think this is a tight game, although it's about a quarterback and there's still a lot of question marks for A&M. I think what A&M has kind of gone through these last couple of weeks have been a little little telling about the offense. The offense has still been pretty consistent. And Missouri is, we use this term all the time. Last 2 weeks, Missouri's been begging to get beat. I mean, they got the double overtime last week with Vanderbilt. Week before that, Boston College had no business being in the game. Missouri was up, pretty much the entire game. And next thing you know, it's a one-possession game, and Boston College had a chance to win the game. So I like A&M here. I think Missouri drops considerably from number 9. I mean, I think you may have them in the late teens after this game. Not saying because the game is that bad, but I just think people are going to say, they're going to look at that game and say, hey, we now know what Missouri is, and this isn't a team that we want in the college football playoff.
All right, let's head in the pick 'em, boys.
All righty.
I will go first and get myself out of the way of these two geniuses. The first game I will break down is the game we just talked about. You guys just talked about as a whole. I love Mizzou in this game. I'm giving them minus 2.5. I'm taking them. Brady Cook. College Station at 12 o'clock is not College Station at 8 o'clock. I think that playing at Kyle Field at noon is a lot less troublesome than playing at Kyle Field at 7 p.m. Let's just be clear when we say that. I think Brady Cook and that Missouri offense is going to be able to move that ball. And Nate Noel, their running back, he's been absolutely gashing teams. 24 carries for 200 yards last week or 2 weeks ago. They had the bye week. They can rest a little bit. I'm going to go to Well and pick Missouri to cover the 2.5. I also stole this 100% from Shally. Georgia loses to Alabama. Bet on Georgia the next week. I'm taking Georgia minus 24 over Auburn. Absolutely crush Auburn coming off that loss, making a statement, going out there and beating Auburn. Auburn's not a good team. Georgia gets home. They're going to handle business. I got Georgia minus 24.5 or minus 24. Here's where I got caught up a little bit. I have 2 Superdog picks, but I'm only can use one. So I will take Iowa plus 20.5 over Ohio State. I think they're going to keep the game close. I think Ohio State wins it, obviously. But I think, Iowa's offense has been moving the ball a lot better than they have previous years. And I think their defense is good enough to keep the game within 21 versus Ohio State. I'll take them plus the 20.5 points. And for my Superdog, the ultimate letdown game, give me Vanderbilt plus 23 versus Alabama. I'll take Vandy at home to keep the game within a couple scores versus Alabama. This
is actually nuts because we share some picks this week, surprisingly.
So do I.
First game, I will go with Georgia minus 24 versus Auburn. I think this was, once I saw the spread not be 31.5, I said this is by far the easiest game of the week. This is an Auburn team that lost to Cal, and that is the same Cal team that just dropped the game to, guess who? Florida State and DJU. I think Georgia is going to stomp a mud hole through this Auburn team, and the game is in Georgia. I love them in that spot there. Second game I like, game we already talked about. I like Texas A&M minus 2.5 versus Missouri. I think with them being at home and the way that the offense has consistently moved the ball, I think will be a big factor in that game. The other thing, too, is that Luther Burden hasn't been that superstar receiver that we've been expecting him to be, so far throughout this year and how we saw he was last year. So I think with that being the case, I can see the Missouri offense just struggling to consistently move the ball downfield in that game. So I like A&M to cover the 2.5 there. Then the last game I like USC minus 8.5 at Minnesota. I loved Michigan last week, and they made me look good for 42 minutes of that game, and then it all just went to hell at the end. I don't think USC is going to give me that same letdown. Minnesota is really not that good of a football team. I think USC's defense will be able to keep Minnesota at bay, and I think the offense and Miller Moss put up a ton of points in that one. So I love them minus 8.5. And then my super dog, just like Gene, I have Vanderbilt plus 23 versus Alabama. This Vanderbilt team is not the same Vanderbilt team of years past, and I do think this will be the ultimate letdown game for Alabama.
All right, I'll get my one right out of the way. I am as well taking Georgia minus 24.5 at home against Auburn. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I promise you after that game, there was a lot of things corrected in practice this week for Georgia. and they will absolutely at home play with a sense of urgency. I think Kirby Smart's going to make a statement game Saturday, and Auburn's going to be the victim. I think if they get up big, I think they keep scoring. I think this is going to be a beating back, behind the old woodshed type thing. So I like Georgia big at home. I'm going to go against Gene on this one. Ohio State minus 19.5 against Iowa. I think Ohio State covers. I know there's the potential for the trap to look ahead because they go to Oregon next week for the big one, but I think they've been playing way too consistent. I'm not sure if you're watching Iowa play. Iowa is really not moving the ball a lot better. I think they're going to struggle to score. And again, as good as Iowa's defense is, and it's legit. I think it's going to be on the field way too much. Jeremiah Smith has just been absolutely bonkers so far. Made it an insane one-handed catch last week again. I think Ohio State just has too much. I don't think they're going to get caught looking ahead to Oregon, so I like them at home to cover. Last but not least, I'm going to go with the fraud. I'm going to go with the fraud to rebound after his embarrassing loss last week. I'm going to go Ole Miss minus 9.5 at South Carolina. South Carolina is not that good. I think Ole Miss has to get back on track. If they lose this week, they're screwed. So I think they get a better effort this week, and I'll take them to cover at South Carolina. And then my super dog is the same as you guys. Cottrell said it best. This is not the rollover Vanderbilt of years past. They're actually a pretty average football team, believe it or not. I think at home, Alabama coming to town, noon kickoff. I think everything's right for them to have a kind of an inspired half of football and stay in it. I think Alabama will turn on a little bit in the second half once they wake up, but I think they keep it close. I think we all steal a couple of super dog points.
Now, granted, I haven't watched all the Iowa games, but they scored 30, 31, and 40 in 3 of their 4 games. And their running game is I think it's number 9 in the country right now with Caleb Johnson. Are they not offensive? I know Cade McNamara stinks, and I get it. He's a former, Michigan quarterback. That's why he stinks. But what am I missing?
I would say that last 2 weeks have been, I don't know if they played last week if they're on a bye, but the last two games that they played, they have had success running football. I know one of them was against Troy. I can't remember who the other team that they played was.
Minnesota.
I just told you how bad I think Minnesota is. So granted, they look good running the football. When you have a quarterback that you can't trust to move the ball down the field, I'm not a believer in their off. They brought in their OC essentially to get the most out of Cade and that Iowa offense. And it's hey, give the ball to Caleb. You want the big plays to happen, but Cade hasn't really put it together. The first game he was okay in the second half, but Cade really hasn't put it together all season. So that's why I'm personally weary of that Iowa offense. But you are correct in the rushing attack for Iowa has been pretty good this season.
Yeah, I think these guys got 700 yards in 4 games, but we'll see. I obviously could be wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm glad I didn't pick it for my super dog. I'll just steal the super dog that you guys get. UFC, 2 fights, 1 good, 1 not that good that we're going to cover. Obviously Jose Aldo versus Mario Batista is probably a better fight than Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. I am not looking forward to that fight. I'm just not. I'm sorry. It screams just absolute bore fest. It'll be worse than the Valentina fight. I'm just being clear with you. Watch the first 3 fights, go get something to eat, go get something to drink, and then watch the last fight. I understand completely why they put Khalil Roundtree in this fight versus Alex Pereira. They finally put him in there with a striker that's faster than him. Essentially, they put him in there with a guy that can box with him, and Alex Pereira is going to have to use a little bit more of his well-roundedness. Now, granted, I think Alex Pereira ends up knocking him out, knocking him off his feet, but understanding why the matchup with Khalil Roundtree is here. Let's at least give our projections on Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena because it is a championship fight. Where are you at on this, Cottrell? Are you thinking it's going to be as boring as I did?
Definitely going to be a grappling fight here, but I actually think Juliana gets the submission in this one. I like Juliana in third round submission over Raquel Pennington. I can definitely see it with neither one of them I mean, neither one of these two are just complete knockout artists. Like, this isn't Kayla Harrison in there. So I understand where you're coming from with, you saying it being more of a boring fight, but I think you will see, a submission here, and I think it gets us to the main event rather quickly. I think in the second round, Juliana Pena is really flirting with it, but third round, I think, is when it happens, and I'm going rear naked choke.
I think Juliana Pena wins the fight. She hasn't fought since Amanda Nunes. Am I correct?
Yes.
And she got gifted the title, essentially.
I mean, she should have honestly been in the interim fight, but yeah, you're right.
All right, just being clear. I think Juliana wins the fight. I think it's just absolutely. I'm not a fan of this fight. I think this division is falling apart now that Amanda's not there, and we'll see what ends up coming of it. But Dana's got to do a little bit better here. Shally, what's your prediction on the fight?
I mean, I don't disagree with anything either one of you said. I just think he's very limited in his options, to be honest. I mean, again, I agree with you. I wish he could do something different. I just don't know.
I think Kayla Harrison's different. I think that would, but
yeah, I agree with you. I'll go second round submission for Juliana Pena instead of 3, just to change it up a little bit. But this is probably your bathroom break. Or, I mean, listen, if you want to watch a grappling match, then watch this. If not, go get your snacks, go get your food, heat up whatever you want to do, take a dump, whatever, and then come back for the main event. Because that's, not trying to be dismissive, but it's not going to be an exciting fight.
Main event of the evening, you have Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree.
Pereira.
Guys, I'm not kidding when I tell you this. Alex Pereira is the last person that I want to walk down a hallway or into an alleyway and see is after me. The last person. I think John would be lazy and he wouldn't kill me right away. I think Alex Pereira is an absolute psychopath and would murder me. He scares me just walking around. The guy looks like death. Khalil Roundtree is getting fed to that, and I understand styles make fights. Let me just be really clear when I say this. I'm not disrespecting Khalil Roundtree. He's a good fighter. He is. I just don't understand. I don't understand how this is going to work out for him. He is a knockout artist. He has knocked out Anthony Lionheart Smith. He has knocked out Chris Daukaus. Khalil Roundtree does have KO game, and I think that this will be an interesting fight because you're going to see a guy that's going to attack. And Pereira is a guy you don't want to attack. But this has the makings to be a really quick fight with Pereira knocking him out. But if Khalil Roundtree can stick and move for a little while, you might see him up 2-0 on scorecards before he gets knocked out in the third round. I think he eventually gets knocked out. Whether it happens in the first round or the third round, I don't know. But I'll go Alex Pereira third round knockout. I think Khalil Roundtree will do enough stick and move to stay away from him. Eventually gets caught. Eventually the Terminator gets his prey.
I think this is so anti-Dana White. This fight just doesn't make stylistically it makes sense, but Khalil Roundtree is coming off of a suspension for a positive drug test, and this was after his last fight. And then his next fight after that, he gets a title shot. I mean, that is so unlike Dana White. And I get it. You have to do something. And Alex is hungry. Alex always wants to be in the cage. So I get it. You had to throw somebody in there that wanted to stand and bang with him and be a guy that you can have as the main event here. But I am so against Khalil getting this title shot here because that's just not the nature of the UFC. With that being said, I am rolling with Alex Pereira as well. There's going to be a knockout one way or another. Neither one of these guys really go after takedowns. I don't think Khalil has shot one time in his career at this point. So these guys will be on the feet for 25 minutes if you let them. And I just don't see a way that this fight ends up going the distance. I think both these guys are way too powerful and just way too precise to have this fight go to decision. But I do think the advantage comes in with Alex's ability to chop down legs and even get some kicks to the midsection there to really start to wear down Khalil. And I think as you get later on in that fight, you're going to see Khalil starting to break down. And I like Pereira to knock him out in the fourth round.
I'm going to go Pereira in the second round. I think Roundtree's going to come out, and like you guys both said, I think he's going to try to, get in the pocket, get out, not get caught, and see how long he can do that. I also think once Pereira finds his range, I think you're going to see a lot of leg kicks. I think Roundtree's going to realize he's not going to be able to dance around for 5 rounds. And then I think once that starts to happen, I think it's just only a matter of time before Pereira catches him. So I'll go late second round, maybe probably like within the last minute of the second round. I think Pereira catches him with a hook or something of that nature, and we go nighty-night and we end the card.
I left this for the end, and I'm hoping more people are listening. I do want to rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo. Awesome, great person, dies of brain cancer. I don't need to laugh. Don't need to laugh. This is serious. Rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo, a Hall of Famer, a legend, great human being. And that's where I'll end that, because the other scumbag that passed away in the last 4 or 5 days, I don't know when it was. I think it was Friday. I could care less. And honestly, I think all the people that are saying rest in peace, Pete, on their Facebook page might not know all the scummy things Pete did in his life, but most notably being a 33-year-old, dating a 15-year-old and living with her, but not having sexual relationship until she was 16, the age of consent. Yeah, that's real realistic. I believe that. I believe every word of that. Gambled, lied, cheated, stole. The guy's a scumbag. And I refuse to hope that man rests in peace. There's no limitation on having sex with a minor. So I want to make sure I put that out there. If anybody's got any words on it, thinks he should be in the Hall of Fame, please, I invite those conversations. And I invite that, I invite that argument.
Him being a scumbag has nothing to do with him being in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. There's terrible human beings in the Hall of Fame.
You're right. How many rapists are in there?
He's a terrible human being.
How many rapists are in there?
There's a bunch of people that beat the shit out of their wives in there that we've talked about on this show and celebrated. So let's just keep it 100. Barry Bonds, who
I hate Barry Bonds, bro. Let's not pretend I like Barry Bonds.
Do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame?
No.
You don't?
No.
That's not the stance you took 2 years ago.
I said he was the greatest hitter to ever play the game. Barry Bonds.
You said he should be in. You said he should be in.
Not.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you did. Listen, I make no bones or stick up for nothing Pete Rose did in his personal life or who he is as a human being. But there are horrible people in the Hall of Fame already. Strictly as a baseball player and being the all-time hits leader, I think he should be in.
I don't. I think that Pete Rose should never be in the Hall of Fame because he cheated the game of baseball and broke the cardinal sin of betting on baseball in a game he was involved in. Just the same reason Joe Jackson and the 1918 White Sox aren't in the Hall of Fame. You cheat the game of baseball. You fix games of baseball. I'm not saying that Pete Rose fixed games because he bet on himself. That's fair. That's a lot better than what the 1918 White Sox did. He's a joke. And the worst part of it, here's the worst part. Forget the statutory rape because that's awful. And I don't think anybody that's a rapist should ever be in the Hall of Fame, just be clear. But let me forget the statutory rape part for a minute. This man lied about it for 20 years, lied about it. And then Bud Selig goes, the only chance you ever have of being accepted into Baseball Hall of Fame is to admit what you did. And guess what he did 3 weeks later? He admitted what he did. And then Bud Selig still didn't let him in the Hall of Fame. And good for him. And then after that, he went and sold a book and made millions of dollars selling a book. The guy's made so much money off of baseball. He's a sexist. He was a sexist up until his last day. The guy 2 years ago was at a Philadelphia Phillies game where they brought back the 1980 champions. They should have never brought him back to begin with. And a reporter asked him about the statutory rape case. Instead of saying that didn't happen or I was never charged with it. It was 55 years ago, babe. That's his response to that. You think you being 33 years old and living with a 15-year-old is okay? No, bro. No. Keep that man far away from the prestigious Hall of Fame. And if Major League Baseball keeps all those steroid addicts out of the Hall of Fame. They should definitely keep a cheater, a liar. And I'm going to be clear when I say this, right? The steroid error, I understand why a lot of guys took steroids during the steroid era. They cheated, but I understood it. Everyone was taking steroids during that era. I understood it. And the problem is, I don't have an issue. I have a bigger issue with the Barry Bondses of the world that didn't need to take steroids. That would have been one of the greatest players ever to play baseball without steroids. Because what happens is these mid-tier players take steroids. They take steroids and they stop a guy that's clean, that's in AAA, from making the big league roster. There's less spots for the AA kid that's clean. And it becomes an accepted thing in the league, which thank God they broke down on. But that's not for here nor there. I'm not comparing that. I'm talking about this scumbag that's getting celebrated on posts about his life. Fuck him. I got nothing good to say about Pete. Nothing. Cottrell, any thoughts?
I mean, I think obviously two wrongs don't make a right here, but I do agree with the sentiment of you have a lot of bad people and a lot of Hall of Fames, whether it be NFL, MLB, NBA. And now that he's no longer here to celebrate that accomplishment, I think what he did for the game of baseball should be recognized in the Hall of Fame. So I'd put him in the Hall of Fame now that he can't be there. I think they've done the right thing, not letting him be able to see that accomplishment. But talking about the all-time hits leader, and I get it, cheating the game and all the other stuff that he did outside of baseball. But while he was playing and to get those accolades, like, he didn't cheat the game then. So I'd put him in the Hall of Fame now.
100% a Hall of Fame talent, 100% a Hall of Fame career, 100% one of the greatest baseball players ever. But you don't celebrate a guy that has tarnished the game of baseball.
I don't think you're celebrating him at that point, though.
You're not. You're celebrating what he did and his records and putting him in as a player. You're not celebrating him or anything he did. But I'll go back to what I always go back to. Like, where do you draw the line?
I don't know
where
I draw the line, just to be clear.
Okay, well, all right. Well, perfect example. The stories about the old Yankees are awful. Are all of them true? Probably not. Mickey Mantle was one of the biggest womanizers on the face of this earth.
100%.
Multiple stories about him sleeping with underage girls all the time. That guy's a legend.
I have nothing that says that Mickey Mantle admitted to living in a home and having and dating a 15-year-old. If I seen that, I'd have the same reaction to if you can show me where Mickey Mantle's like, yeah, I lived with her. She was 15, but I didn't sleep with her until she was 16.
Hey, bro.
I'll say this to that point. And again, this is not to okay this behavior. Karl Malone, it's well documented what happened with Karl Malone in his situation, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Well documented.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was well documented after he was in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, people knew about it as it was done.
Yeah,
people knew about it.
It wasn't that big. It wasn't that big of a secret, dude.
That doesn't change my opinion on Karl Malone. I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame
but he's in. That's the point. He's in.
Yeah, that was my
he's in is fine. My opinion on whether he should be in is my opinion. My opinion is that scumbag should go nowhere near the Hall of Fame. And I don't want him to have a plaque with his name celebrating what he did for the game of baseball.
And I can 100% respect that. Like, I 100% understand where you're coming from with that, but it doesn't change the fact that he is in. They haven't taken him out. They haven't done anything with it. It's just like this accepted thing. And again, this isn't me saying that it should be that way, but to Bill's point, I guess, where does baseball, draw that line?
Patrol, that's not my job to say where they draw the line or not. My job is to give you my opinion on whether or not that guy should be in the Hall of Fame or not. And my answer is no. And if you show me concrete evidence of somebody else with statutory rape or cheating the game of baseball or betting on the game of baseball, I will give you the same response. Now, whether or not he gets in or not, I promise you, I won't lose sleep over it. But I am very passionate that I would never allow that man anywhere near the Hall of Fame for what he did. And by the way, like, we act like this relationship, bro, you could sell me on, hey, the girl was 15. She said she was 18. He made a mistake one night. You can't sell me on him sleeping in her parents' house when she was 14 years old. He was grooming her for a year and a half. He was 32. That's so disgusting. I can never live with that.
Nobody's saying it's not. But you've documented racists. You've documented wife beaters. You've documented, again, like for instance, like you brought up Shoeless Joe. Shoeless Joe hit 365 in the World Series, was adamant forever that he was nothing to do with it. The other guys' numbers were all in the tank. Like, betting on baseball's happened forever. Pete Rose wasn't the only guy betting on baseball. There's still people that get caught now doing it. Like, nobody's saying he's a good person. Nobody.
Yeah.
But if you have to draw the line between what you're going to let in off accolades alone versus what they are as a human being.
And in my world, in Gene Walzak's world, I would never let people like that in the Hall of Fame.
Then you would have to yank a lot of people out of every Hall of Fame.
That's fair. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me.
All right. So for this week, kind of on the topic that we're on right now, and Gene kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier.
No.
I'm going with Von Miller.
Okay.
Von Miller ultimately got suspended for Von Miller and the NFL. Let me fix that. I'm going with Von Miller and the NFL. So Von Miller got suspended for 4 games for personal conduct policy violation. But what they neglected to say was it was for the fact that he beat up his, at the time, pregnant girlfriend. And the NFL clearly knew about it. She's a like Instagram model, has like a ton of followers, things like that. She made it well, publicized, like what happened, had police reports, had the footage, had messages from Von, all this stuff. But, in the NFL's mind, this happened almost a year ago at this point. We knew about it well before the season started. They let Von play the first few games of the year, kind of swept under the rug. Really, this was, I believe, what was going on during right before the playoff run from last year. So that we could have had a decision made on this. Could have said, hey, we'll put him on the exempt list. We'll give him a year suspension. We'll do whatever we need to do to make sure we distance ourselves from this domestic dispute that Von Miller clearly had. But they didn't do that. They said, hey, we'll just kind of wait for all the dust to settle. And when we hand out the suspensions for everybody else, we'll throw Von a 4-game suspension in there, and then we'll just hope nobody notices it. So for me this week, the NFL, a lack of holding these players accountable for just all of the illegal things that in any other world, normal people either go to jail for, they pay a ton of money in court costs for, a ton of fines, things like that. NFL, yet again, just not having a clue in this whole Von Miller situation.
Kidding me.
Charlie, do not steal mine.
I don't have one, so I'm not going to steal it.
Okay. Mine is so easy this week, and I knew it the moment it happened. The Philadelphia Eagles got absolutely destroyed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And offensively, they had 0 yards in like the first 4 or 5 drives. Defensively, they let up 3 touchdowns in the first 3 drives. 254-0 at one point during the game. And by the way, it'd have been really funny to use Baker Mayfield or Tom Brady for their interaction because that was hilarious. But after the game, Darius Slay got beat on a lot of plays. And he was getting roasted on Twitter. And, career earnings of $100 million for Darius Slay for being a great cornerback. He's getting roasted on Twitter for getting beat multiple times in the game. And his idea of responding to that, and I just want to be clear, at 5:23 p.m., the game ended at like 3:50. Within 90 minutes of the game ending, he's on Twitter, 150 pass breakups and counting, 28 picks and counting, 6-time Pro Bowler, all pro. When you talk bad about me, don't forget to mention the greatness of me too. Pumping up your career stats, after you get your ass beat by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's probably not the greatest idea in the world. And as if he couldn't make it worse, after making his Twitter private, deleting the tweet, Monday, I don't know if you knew about it, but Micah Parsons and CJ Gardner-Johnson had a little Twitter beef last week. Last week after the Saints game, talking about Derek Carr and whether he should be in the NFL or not. And Micah Parsons and CJ Gardner-Johnson went at each other on Twitter. Monday, to my surprise, guess who was on the Micah Parsons podcast? None other than Darius Slay. And, he didn't say anything that stupid on the podcast, but it's really out of touch. And then when brought up the conversation about CJ Gardner-Johnson, I don't want to say he trashed his teammate because he didn't trash him, but he goes, he talks a lot and he's got to back it up, is what they said was. This is a rival team with a guy that just got in an argument with one of your players, your secondary teammates, after you just made one of the stupidest tweets of all time. Darius Slay, you have that captain on your chest for a reason. You got to be better than this. For that, Darius Slay.
Kidding me.
What an idiot. Moron.
Got to learn how to read the room.
I just think it's weird how, Micah Parsons low-key wants to be an Eagle.
Oh, I know.
And I can't wait till Jerry just fumbles that whole situation.
Well, I do wish that the NFL would be a little bit more of a rivalry sport like it used to be, where players hated the other team, because I want them to have the passion that we have as fans, that we pay, so much money for NFL.com and for all these extra things to support the league and invest so much time and money. And, I don't know, man. I want you to care.
It's going to turn into the NBA, dude. Now that all these guys are getting all their guaranteed money, and again, I'm not saying the way it used to be was the right way, but when you're getting these contracts and you're getting every penny of it, it takes a lot of guys. It takes that edge off, and it's I don't think the Cowboys and the Eagles are ever going to get along, but I mean it's just not as or the Steelers and the Browns are going to be best friends. But I also think it's becoming just more of a business. It's becoming more of the NBA thing now. Like, these guys are getting all the money, and again, most of it's deservedly so. But with them all being guaranteed now, they're just worried about a lot of other things, and it's I don't think the NFL as a whole is anywhere near as good as it was 4 years ago.
No, yeah. And, this is for another conversation on another day before we wrap up. But I will say this: sports gambling is legalized has been one of the worst things ever for sports.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is as much as they think they have control over it. I mean, again, I think the guys that are really stupid about it get caught. I don't think for the life of me that there's not stuff going on. There's too much.
I don't think that's where he was going with it.
No, but I mean, I'm not even talking about the players, but I mean, again, like referees, there's way too much money floating around now to not get in people's ears and not get in people's pockets.
And the coincidences are there's so many of them.
Exactly.
So, guys, any final thoughts tonight?
Got just two quick ones. Two things we didn't get to cover, but just wanted to make sure we said it. Cat being traded to the Knicks. I think that obviously we'll talk about that in a couple weeks when we get around to the NBA season. But I think that is a bigger trade than I originally thought when I first saw it. And then just the other one that I wanted to go through is got a WNBA update. You got the New York Liberty 1 game away from going to the WNBA finals. And then in the other series, you got Connecticut and Minnesota are tied 1-1 going back to Connecticut. So
I think you're definitely getting Connecticut versus New York. I think we were right about this all along. But
I mean, I don't think that Las Vegas isn't going to go quietly at home now for the next two. So it'll be.
I'm still rolling with my original pick of Aces Sun.
Okay.
Could be.
Any final thoughts?
No, I mean the only thing I would say is if you missed the President's Cup this past weekend, it was incredible.
It was.
It was absolutely. It was everything it was supposed to be. A lot of really good kind of storylines came out of it, and the play and the back and forth and the chippiness. It was a really good watch. So golf is going to kind of be out of the spotlight per se for the next couple months, but we will. It was a good way to end the season. It was very good, interesting year. It was a really good way to end the season. It was a hell of a watch.
I'm with you. Thank you guys for tuning in this week to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Sheen Walzak. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Control, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William Shallcross, and we are signing out.